Of course, the main event of Saturday night's main event was Goldberg versus Gunther. And we were talking about it. We have talked about it this week. Everybody's been talking about what the match was. And I think that a lot of people were honestly surprised at how good Goldberg versus Gunther was. That it was, I think Goldberg went above and beyond, I think, what people expected of him. But at the same time, if you watch that match and you know what you're watching, it is so clear that Gunther is like a once-in-a-lifetime talent. The work that Gunther did in that match is crazy. And I think Gunther is, some people think that he's not doing enough character work. I think Gunther is so deep in his character work that he will never be the one to point out, look at everything that I'm doing. But ultimately, that's how pro wrestling works. That's how pro wrestling is supposed to work. That you don't necessarily always know that one guy is doing all this work over here, that one guy's whole job is to make this guy look good. That's pro wrestling, ultimately, while it can be a selfish business, the goal of a lot of these performers should be to make the whole show good and to make everybody else good as well as themselves. And I've got to tell you, you know how I feel about professional wrestling. You know how I feel about professional wrestlers. You know I love professional wrestling. You know I love professional wrestlers. You know I come on here and I talk about these things that I like, and I talk about these things that have me feeling enthused, and I want to share that enthusiasm with you. You know that's how I am. And all I want to do, I swear to God, all I want to do is support Goldberg. Goldberg is undoubtedly an icon in wrestling. Goldberg is a guy who a certain generation will always remember as one of these truly mystique, magic guys. The truth is that the NWO is starting to run pretty cold, and Goldberg fueled WCW through a year that they may not have had. WCW may not have had 98 going into 99 as much in hand as they did without Goldberg. And I 100% want to sit here and support Goldberg for what he did in wrestling. The fact that he did it in an unconventional way, it is what it is. But I don't know if there's anybody in wrestling that makes it more difficult to support them than Bill Goldberg. Like, try as I might, he just gets out there and does whatever he can to make sure that if you wanted to support him as a wrestling fan, not just as a Goldberg fan, but as a fan who loves the whole spectrum of professional wrestling, if you're that type of fan who loves it all and who has loved it all for years, Goldberg, it seems like he does everything in his power to make sure that you can't support him, no matter how much you want to. It's unbelievable. I'm sitting here coming off of this retirement match with Goldberg going, we can give him his props now. And I watch his speech, which was very visible because it was across all forms of social media, including the WWE's YouTube channel, which I don't know if anybody's checked, is one of like the top 10 most subscribed YouTube channels in the entire world. Okay? So I was able to see the speech as we all were able to see the speech. It really wasn't a problem. But Goldberg, he goes on this Ariel Helwani show yesterday. And I truly would expect any person that, like, I don't know, is thinking in a logical way to be like, you know what's great? Now I can go on a victory tour. Now I can go, because there were a lot of naysayers. There were a lot of people saying, we don't want another Goldberg match. There were a lot of people saying there have been a lot of Goldberg duds in the later part of Goldberg's career. And WWE put energy into pushing this Goldberg retirement match. And more importantly, WWE took their world heavyweight champion, Gunther, and occupied the world heavyweight champion's time for weeks with Goldberg's retirement match. That is incredibly valuable real estate, to take weeks of your world champion's time to dedicate to a match with Goldberg. That is to say, Goldberg's retirement match has value, and we want to put value on that. And we're going to showcase that through various different ways of doing it. But one of the ways of doing it is to give the time of our world champion to this goal. Then we see it, and Goldberg has this great match. And you're like, okay, Goldberg still got it. Goldberg's able to hit the spears. Goldberg's able to sell the leg. We tell there's a story in the match, for God's sakes. Goldberg in his prime would sometimes not tell stories in matches because they were too quick, which is fine. That was the act. Goldberg is selling the leg. Gunther is attacking the leg. We're telling a story now. This is great. Look at this retirement match where there's really something happening, and you can fall into it. You can follow the story. You can fall into it, right? And then he gets Gunther up, and he hits the jackhammer. And you see it. And I thought at 58 years old, it's totally acceptable if Goldberg isn't going to hit the jackhammer. I go totally fine at 58 years old. I don't expect you to still be jackhammering people. And he jackhammered a big, giant Austrian named Gunther. Okay? That's a difficult thing to do. I couldn't pull it off, and I'm younger than Goldberg. I didn't play any football. I'm not that athletic. I'm just saying. Then Gunther's able to get the victory, and still he gets the victory with the sleeper hold. It's the story of Gunther. And guess what? After the match, who is going to continue to be wrestling? Who's going to continue to be somebody who is like representing the WWE and who is carrying the business forward, which is what has always been the tried and true tradition of wrestling, to carry the business forward. Gunther is the one that is going to be carrying the business forward. So Gunther defeating Goldberg makes it possible for Gunther to go to MetLife Stadium and face CM Punk in a match that tickets can be sold for. That's how the whole business works. And I go, well, that was great. Goldberg got a great match and then gets to cut this speech and had all his friends around him. All the WCW icons were in the audience. They showed them all night long. The Steiner brothers were there. And Doug Dillinger was there. Doug Dillinger knocked on the door, did the whole entrance. Ernest the Cat Miller was there with them. Goldberg got to be there with his son and his wife. I said, what a beautiful moment for Bill Goldberg. What a wonderful thing as a father and a husband to have this business give this to you. Beautiful. I could see it, right? When WCW is purchased by WWE and the WCW guys come in, 100%. The WWE was like, I mean, the invasion angle was terrible. Why? Because WWE was like, well, here's the thing about anybody that's not a WWE guy, you're all losing. I get it. But in 2025, you literally filled the arena with WCW people. You did the match in Atlanta, WCW's hometown. Like, there's no more competition. They bought the company 25 years ago. You know, it's not a thing. Goldberg, like, saying that he's pissed off about how the match went and how the retirement went, you know. And he kind of got further into it where he was upset that his speech got cut off. And he wouldn't go as far as to say the WWE cut off his speech. But it was implied that this was a thing that either they did on purpose or they didn't care about. And I'm sitting there going, it's network television. Guys, it's network television. Saturday night's main event is on NBC. Everybody knows it's on network television. The way network television works, the reason it's called network television is because there is a network of local channels called syndicates that pick up this NBC feed. When you're on network television, you can't do, okay, just go on for another 5 minutes, the way you can on cable, because cable is a direct feed. On network television, you would literally have to inform every single syndicate, tons of them, and go, hey, would you mind going long? And many of them would say, yes, we do mind going long. You cannot go long. We have other programs on our network that we're going to be airing. It's a hard out. It's as hard a hard out as you're going to get. And everybody knows that. It's the same way as like, well, there's commercials in the match. Yet network television has commercials. Everybody knows this. And Goldberg goes, well, I would rather have it on a PLE. To come off of that match and go, Well, I wish it was on a PLE, not Saturday Night's Main Event. It's like, dude, it was in Atlanta for you. It was the whole Saturday Night's Main Event was basically the Goldberg show. It was based around Goldberg. And somehow he's able to find a negative. Somehow he's able to be a victim of a circumstance that makes absolutely no sense. And what drove me crazy about this was not only does this come across to me, and I don't know Bill Goldberg, I'm sure he's a lovely man, but what's nuts about this is that, number one, it comes across as a man who is hell-bent on being wronged. Like, there has to be some way that he was wronged. There has to be something here that somebody did against him. And you hate to say it because you don't look at Goldberg and feel this way, but it's a victim mentality. Like, to not look at that moment and go, this was about as perfect a retirement as someone like Goldberg could ask for. And he goes, well, John Cena gets a whole year. And it's like, yeah, bro, you're Goldberg, but you're not John Cena. And he goes, they wouldn't do that to Undertaker. Yeah, but you know what they did to Undertaker in one of his last matches? They made him wrestle Goldberg, and it was terrible. That's what happened in one of as Undertaker was wrapping up his career. And he didn't complain about it. He didn't go, oh, I was wronged. He went, wow, that didn't work. That's wrestling. But Goldberg's whole thing, and by the way, like I said, the camera stayed rolling, so his retirement speech could go on as long as it wanted. And then WWE immediately blasted it across their YouTube channel, across their Twitter page. I can't even imagine how many millions of impressions that entire Goldberg speech got. It's not lost to time. If anything, the network feed, it's 2025, guys. The network feed is what gets lost to time. What's forever is what's on the internet and what's getting millions and millions and millions of views, which is the full speech that WWE put out there and allowed, by the way, the fact that they just left the cameras rolling and said we're going to put it out on social media allows the speech to go on as long as Goldberg wants it to. It's the best way to do it when you're on a network television show. The thing that really, though, drove me crazy about this was Goldberg sitting there, and he's talking about everything that he did. And why didn't I get this? Why I didn't get back as much as I put in. I didn't get. All Goldberg got from wrestling was getting and getting and getting. How many guys? Go back to the beginning of Goldberg. Go back to William Regal being in a ring with Goldberg and just allowing, go back to Haku being in a ring with Goldberg. All these veterans getting in a ring with Goldberg and allowing Goldberg to smash them in mere minutes. You think that you go to Haku, you go to William Regal, you go to any of these WCW guys that Goldberg plowed through in 2 minutes. You think they were happy that some new guy who had no history in wrestling whatsoever was going to plow through them in 2 minutes? No, they weren't happy about that. There's no way they'd be happy about that. But they go, hey, we're going to build this guy as the next thing. We're going to build him as a world champion. So that's why we're doing this. And they go, well, it's going to hurt my ego. I don't love it for me. But if that's what you're doing with the business, then that makes sense. I should go down in 2 minutes because it's better for the business. And it's going to be better for all of us. He had this whole run. Hulk Hogan didn't drop the title for anyone. Hulk Hogan wouldn't even drop the title for Sting at Starrcade. It was crazy. He wouldn't even finish that story properly. But he dropped the title to Goldberg in Atlanta. Hogan didn't have to do that. But he did it to give Goldberg this career-defining moment. He gave it to him. All these people, if you look through Goldberg's history, all these people in this wrestling business gave to Goldberg so that Goldberg could be this star because they knew that, look, he was going to be capable of being the star. He was going to draw the attention. He was the one that could get the eyeballs on. He was the one that could do all this, yes. But everybody, the whole business, bent over backwards to make sure that Goldberg was in the position that he could deliver on this level. And to get to this point in life and not look back on that and go, man, I had an incredible career. And I've got a list of about 400 people that I have to say thank you to. I have a list of all these people that made it possible. I have, it could be 1,000 people that made sure and that put me in this position. And there's no way that I'd be even close to the position that I'm in right now had it not been for all these people. And then he rolls out a list, and it looks like the list of moves that Chris Jericho was reading when he was in his feud with Dean Malenko. That's how long the list is. And instead of being like, man, look, I've put a lot into wrestling. And I'm not taking that away from Goldberg. I put a lot into wrestling. I worked really hard at 58 years old to be able to put on the performance that I put on at Saturday Night's Main Event. I gave it my everything. But the fact is, over the last 27 years, wrestling gave me a lot too. And a lot of people in wrestling gave to me to make sure that I could do this. And at this point in my life, and look at how amazing my life is now. Look at how much money I've made. Look at what a star I still am. Look at all this that happened. And I do have a degree of sympathy for Bill Goldberg, who, you know, he on his A&E bio, he kind of explained that, like, wrestling was never his dream. Football was his dream, and that was taken away from him. And the fact that wrestling was never his dream is not his fault. He just happens to be good at professional wrestling in the sense that he draws eyeballs. He gets people to pay money for tickets, which is what being good at wrestling is. And I 100% am with him on that. I agree with him. I have sympathy for him on it. I hate that football was taken away from him. I think it's not his fault if wrestling is not his dream. But to not recognize in any business that you're in that the whole business is shifting so that you can be this star. And yes, you being this star is going to benefit the business, but you being this star is going to benefit you so much. You're going to be a star forever because of this. You're going to make money forever because of this. And it's because Goldberg isn't Goldberg if 200 people don't lose in 2 minutes. Goldberg isn't Goldberg without the streak. And the streak has all of these people who put their lives into wrestling that lost in 2 minutes to Goldberg. And so now to come forward and like not really acknowledge much of that and go, I'm pissed off, is what he said, about the way his retirement went when it literally, I watched that retirement going, it couldn't have gone better. And to go like, well, it could have been on a PLE. Well, how, I mean, there's this like disease of more. Well, what if it had been a little bit? Was it great? Yeah, then we're done then. We're done. It was great. Your son got to see you. Your wife got to see you. Your friends got to be there. You put on a hell of a performance that's going to do a lot to erase some other performances that were not as good, and I think that was the goal. You get to put that match with your speech that everybody saw because it was on, because WWE has this insane social media platform. Everybody saw it. And instead you're like, whoa. Could have been just on Peacock, not on NBC. And by the way, like, putting it on NBC is like, it's a good thing. You have people who are still watching old school television that turn on Channel 4 or Channel 7 or whatever local affiliate NBC is in your area. And they put it on and they see Goldberg's last match. And it's like, Goldberg could say, well, yeah, but me showing up is benefiting you. And it's like, yes, that's true. But that's only because of how much the business benefited you going in. It is a reciprocal thing. And to live life in a way where you're not cognizant of how much you have as opposed to the little that you don't have is just crazy to me.